everybody, welcome to another episode of Spiritual Fluffers. Jason and Aimee here. Our episode today is called When the Shift Hits the Fan. What do we mean by the shift? We mean the energetic shift that's been happening on the planet since December 21st of 2012. We're going to talk a little bit about that today and what it means for us and how we are shifting our realities from a third density or a third dimensional reality to a fifth density or a fifth dimensional reality.
Yep.
So, back up to 12/21/12.
Yep.
Do you remember when everybody was freaking out because the Mayan calendar was end of the world on December 21st, 2012?
We're all going to die.
We're all going to die is the end of the world.
Yeah.
Well, when you actually study it, what you find out is the Mayans were predicting that if we had not blown ourselves off the planet by that time with nuclear war, and we actually survived to the point of 12/21/12, then the world as we have known it would actually cease to exist.
Yep.
And moving forward would be a whole new world that we're now 8 years into almost, 7.5 years into, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you can tell, I think even people who might not be as aware can also tell that a lot has changed
since 2012. Yeah.
And almost in a surrealistic
7.5 years feels almost like an entire century in a lot of ways.
Well, in a lot of ways on an informational level, and also I would say on a spiritual awakening level, it is probably even more than that. I think it's almost thousands of years speed-wise, which makes it fun.
Super fun. You can feel the shift hitting the fan.
You can definitely. If you're feeling a little weird or anxious, you're actually normal in your feeling, and actually that's a good positive thing.
Totally. So let's talk a little bit. Let's go back to third density or third dimension. Yeah. So we hear people talk 3D all the time. We live in a 3D reality. What does that mean?
I mean, basically, it's the superficial existence of us. We think that this meat sack is very important. We call it the computer meat sack.
Our computer meat sack, a.k.a. my body.
Yeah, and we think, like, this stuff's important. We think this is important. But really, on an energetic level, what's really important is underneath it or above it.
Yeah, or inside of each of us is a soul.
Yeah.
We all have a soul, and that soul is made up of an energetic frequency. And that frequency has had to reduce its levels of vibration in order to fit into this computer meat sack.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is what I have always understood as third dimensional or third density.
Yeah.
And so I believe that everything around me is very real. Yep. And that this is I can touch, I can feel, this is very, very real to me.
Yep.
And that belief is third dimension.
We become addicted to that, and because we become addicted to that, we think it's the only thing. And now you're seeing a lot of people, and it seems especially a lot of kids these days, are not saying, they're saying, this doesn't seem all real.
Or there's more to it.
Yes.
Like there's more to it. And I know from early on, you can hear stories of, my daughter and when you have children, they talk about their imaginary friends when they're little.
Yep.
And so that has been around forever.
Yes.
People have had, my mom even talked about having imaginary friends. And so there's an awareness inside of us that there's something else out there.
Yep.
We have just convinced ourselves that that's imagination or fantasy.
It's fantasy, and it's not, even if it was real, it's not important.
Right. Even if it was real, it shouldn't matter to my real existence.
My job and my
I have to be a
car.
profession. Yeah, exactly. I have to be a parent or a spouse or a real estate broker or whatever. That's what matters. Yeah.
And it's really, we become addicted to that. But again, like when we're talking about frequencies, you have access to all these frequencies.
Right. They're always right around you.
Yeah.
But you have to have a willingness to be open to accept them.
Yeah.
So what happened on 12/21/12, a portal of energy opened from the universe that many people reference as a Christed consciousness portal. And Christ consciousness or oneness energy has been pouring onto the planet in amounts and speeds and levels that had never poured onto the planet before that date.
Yeah. Well, I'll explain it in kind of a 3D way of saying, like, Christ consciousness, I am presence is basically like, I am you. I have empathy towards you. You and I are pretty much the same thing. We could have easily become a murderer. We could have easily become the president of the United States. We could have easily done this. And probably before 12, the portal, it was there. Empathy existed, but now it's on such a high level that
there's like a more deep understanding of our connectivity with everything.
Well, and I hate to
think about climate change and the push towards global, pandemic and global climate change, and how we are one humanity now. We're affected by something happening all over the away on the other side of the world is affecting me directly now more rapidly than ever.
Yeah. Well, or also, like, think about this. Like, you're doing the, and I don't like to bring this up because it's such a hot topic, but the mask thing, like, most people are wearing a mask. And again, you can believe in it or not.
Sure.
They're doing it not for their own health, but for, like, some older, for an older person that they might not even know.
That they may never even meet.
And they're like...
But the fact that they have that connectivity to this unknown, elderly, say, weaker systemed person is actually evidence that our Christed consciousness, our oneness connectivity is stronger. And stronger and stronger. Because there were times in our society where nobody gave a shit about...
Let them die.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And it's really powerful. Again, I'm not going to bring up the political aspects of it, but again, it's really powerful that, again, everyone's like, I'm going to do this. I want to save someone. I want to help
we're
someone.
all connected. It's this sense of we're all connected. And you think about, like, technology has connected us tremendously. Even travel, before a lot of the lockdown stuff, though, travel was becoming ubiquitous. You could go, flights from and speed trains, and just the connectivity of people, I think, has been increasing significantly since that 12/21/12 portal.
And our acceptance of it, too. Like, acceptance of different cultures, different... even if you don't agree with people, like, just different... like cultures and different even political processes. Well,
and it's interesting because, we still see conflict in the world. We still see tension.
Anger porn.
Please go see our anger porn episode. But we still see, lots of anger and war and contention. And so many people who are watching this will be like, well, what do you mean by all this love energy pouring onto the planet, or all this Christed consciousness and, everybody feeling connected? It's going to take a long time for this humanity to transition from all of the warmongering, war-bearing, didn't care necessarily about the other. In fact, we cared more about creating separation than we did about creating union. So this could take 1,000 years for us to fully shift through it all.
Well, and also, like, again, anger porn will say, like, oh, we're all divided and all this stuff. But then you see, let's take the Church Emmanuel shooting. Like, you had one person, like, blow away 12.
9.
Yeah, it was... And then, again, I think it was the next day, spontaneously, 30,000 people holding hands on a bridge. Unfortunately, our brains usually tend to register...
The negative
instead of the positive, especially when we're already trained with anger porn.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I think the 30,000 people on the bridge
is wildly more, indicative of who we're becoming as a community.
And, like, it's really weird. I just tell people, like, if they are addicted to anger porn, go out and meet people.
Just get away from your computer and talk to people. They're actually much nicer. And you have more in common with people that you're supposedly don't have in common, politically or whatever.
As long as you take out the, the D or the R or the T or the P or the...
whatever label.
Usually you actually, on a policy level and on a humanity level, you're
we tend
almost
to agree.
The same person.
So starting 12/21/12, this portal opened and all of this energy started pouring onto the planet. Well, each year and several times throughout years, there are varying portals that open, and those portals are represented by repeating numbers. So when I say 12/21/12 was really the kickoff to it, since 2012 up through now, there have been varying month and year combinations that will equal 444 or 333 or 222. And each time there is a repeating number of month, day, and year, there's an additional level of energy that's coming from varying other dimensions that are starting to pour onto the planet.
Yep.
And many of us who are referenced as light workers or star seeds or whatever term you feel comfortable with, we are ones who were almost like so sensitive when that 12-21-12 portal opened. It's almost like a light switch came on for us. And since 2012, we've been slowly cracking open to all this new reality. And I just really busted wide open a year ago, to really December 2018 was when it really started for me.
Yep.
And it just continues to get more and more and more intense. And we're in lots of intense energies through the rest of this year. We've got several different planetary aspects that are in place right now that are really kind of rounding out this global transition. Right now, this year is the most significant global transition that we've likely, I don't know,
since I think the American Revolution.
Since the Revolution, exactly.
And
like all of these structures and all of these systems are collapsing. Schools are not the same. Hospital and medical care is not the same.
And they're never going to be the same.
They're never going to be the same.
Will you talk a little bit on the individual level, on the intensity and how it affects you and how it affects a lot of us? Because I think a lot of us are going through...
Yeah, so I mean, there are physical symptoms that you could be feeling. Everything from headaches to leg pains, to feeling jittery. Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I feel like I've been plugged into an electrical socket.
Yeah.
For those of you out here who might believe in crystals and or healing with crystals, find stones that are black or brown. So jaspers and tiger's eye and agates and tourmalines, obsidians, dark stones that are earth-bound stones, and put those on you, because that will lower that intensity of vibration, and that will help you kind of ease up a little bit so you cannot be so jittery all the time.
Well, and they're like 50 cents if you go to...
Totally. Yeah, you can find a crystal shop anywhere.
Even if you don't believe it...
Yeah, just buy a black rock and put it in your pocket.
Try. It really doesn't do anything.
What's it going to hurt you to pay 50 cents for a black rock? Hell, pick one up from a riverbed that's near your house and just put it in your pocket. I promise it'll work.
Or sand on a beach.
Yes.
I've heard sand on a beach, like if you just actually touch it.
Put a sand in a Ziploc bag and just put your hands in it. Like anything that you can do, go touch a tree, because what's happening is our bodies, this third dimension computer meat sack, is actually being affected by all these energies coming in, and it's shifting our DNA to a fifth dimension reality. And I know that sounds, I'll excuse the cursing, but it sounds batshit crazy. And I know I'm sounding that way saying it, but I am living it right now.
But on a scientific level, you also do, I mean, we know frequencies, and we know we can't...
Like sound frequency and radio frequency,
UV,
microwave,
we know they exist. Do we see them?
No, but
does our body actually register and feel them?
Absolutely, yeah. When you think about, our bodies are like a radio, the actual component of a radio. And if you turn the dial of a radio to a certain frequency, all of a sudden the sound starts to come through. We're exactly the same. And this energetic shift that's been happening since 2012, and it's been happening since the beginning, but it really kicked up a notch in 2012, is tuning our bodies to a different frequency. And what that means for those of us, beyond the physical aspects of it, which are very real, there's also the sort of metaphysical aspects of it, or spiritual aspects of it. I was raised a traditional Christian. I had very sort of mundane, traditional, formal beliefs around Christianity. And this energetic shift for me allowed me to see that, yes, my Christian beliefs are real, but they are also backed by a realm that I didn't even understood existed.
Seeing it like going like this to boop. Because again, we know we are only seeing a sliver of reality.
Right.
We know reality's boop.
Yes.
So.
And I have a former stepson of mine, when I was trying to talk to him about what I was going through, and he described it beautifully, where he was saying, those pictures of the Earth that you see, if you just see the little image of the planet Earth, But then as the camera starts to span back, you see it's Earth and all of the planets around it, the solar system, the sun, the galaxy, all of this. So Earth is still Earth, but there's all of this expanse around it that is also just as real and has lots of information to give to the person taking it in, right? So that's what we're saying here. When this 3D, 5D shift is taking you from your concentration on this level right here to a level of concentration that allows a lot more information and, quite honestly, a lot more fun.
Well, and also, it's weird. It's become a lot easier, and you see it in a lot more people, I believe, where they're understanding that they actually can control their own emotions. They can control their own thought process. They can control how they think. Versus, I mean, basically, most of humanity throughout until basically, gosh, even recently, I would say most of humanity was asleep.
Right,
where they thought,
conditioned.
Where they allowed life to react to life versus actually becoming an active participant
in their own happiness, co-creating their own happiness, like you like to say. If you haven't seen our Putting Fun Back in the Fungible video, please go watch that, because it's exactly what we're saying. You can actually rewrite your own understanding of this reality.
And it was much, much, much harder. It was
much harder years and years and years ago. Think about the 1950s, right? Think about the construction. It's interesting that the television in the 1950s was black and white, because think about what that says about the beliefs in society. There was black and there was white. You know what I mean? And there was literally racial segregation occurring then, but there were this belief structure around this is right and this is wrong. The man goes to work, the woman stays home.
Good,
the children
evil.
Are seen but not heard from. You know what I mean? Good, bad.
War,
peace. Enemy, friend.
The movie Pleasantville actually does a really good job of it, saying like, hey, and this wasn't actual. I know people, because it's hard to see history as people thinking differently.
Right.
But the outcome, obviously, because the macro is a reflection of the micro, obviously people thought differently. Because the outcome actually would be, because the outcome was different, the macro was different. So, I mean, these people really, you had War of the Worlds where, like, people actually ran out of their house thinking that they were being invaded by aliens. Like, that's probably not going to happen today.
Here's hoping.
I mean, it'd be fun. I'm going to be running out because I'll be like, even if they were violent, I'd be like, whatever. We're toast anyway.
I'm so off my rocker with everything now. I'm like, whatever, bring them on. Come on, have a glass of wine. Tell me what it's like on planet whatever, wherever.
Really cool.
So thank you guys for watching us again today on this. We hope you have a little bit of a better understanding of what's happening on the planet with these energetic shifts and possibly even what you're feeling. Also, know you might be more emotional. The emotional swings are pretty volatile right now with all of this, but know that you're normal, and it just means you're human, and it means you're resonating with these changes. And find practices. Look into meditative practices, going for walks out in nature. Like we said, buy a stone at your local crystal shop. Ask the owner of the store about earthbound stones and the ones that can help lower your vibration and bring you into a little bit more of a comfortable space. Those of you who may already be open and have angels and ancestors and guides that you work with, ask your guides to help ease the symptoms for you. All of my colleagues and folks in this world have said we can absolutely ask for these symptoms to not be quite so harsh on our bodies right now.
Until then, look for your center place. Like sometimes it's the beach, sometimes it's the forest, sometimes it's the mountains, sometimes it's fishing.
Sitting by a creek or something.
Some people, their meditation is to run every day, and that's a perfectly valid meditation. But also, you're actually, and I think even most of you are becoming more aware of, if you don't do those, it hurts more. Exactly. Like you get into a worse mood or more anxious if you don't do them. If you're feeling super anxious right now, try to up your centering practices even more so.
Totally. I agree.
Is what I'd say.
So as always, make sure and subscribe to us. If you're liking this, please make sure and do the like button and share with everybody. And then we will see you again next time on our next episode of Spiritual Fluffers.
Yay, fun.